This is Professor Oak, inventor of the digital Pokédex, and of course, the namesake of the Professor Oak Challenge, even in games where he doesn't make an appearance because there's a different professor. This challenge was first created by Chamali, with the run of Pokemon Crystal in 2018, where the run was described as going Oak mode with the game. Eventually, a small community began to form around this kind of run, and it was popularized when brought to the light on YouTube by Johnstone in 2019.
Hey everyone, I'm in a video!
The goals and rules of the challenge are simple. We need to obtain every Pokemon we possibly can before each badge. Also, no glitching or trading is allowed. The Oak Challenge is all about doing honest Pokédex fieldwork on a game that has no communication with the outside world. Some people spice up these rules with additional twists like using no experience share or no rare candies, but I won't be doing that. I know some of you want me to do this with only shinies or training everything to level 100, but I think this challenge is good enough as it already is, and I want to experience it for what it is at face value as I take it on for the first time. And what better place to take on my first Oak Challenge than in my favorite Pokemon game, Emerald version. It's gonna be a grind, and it's gonna be a little bit trickier than Ruby Sapphire, but let's do this. My name is Matt, but you can call me Absol. And this is how I took on the Professor Oak Challenge in Pokemon Emerald. So, when and where does this journey start? The answer to that was a little bit up in the air for me. Thousands of feet in the air, in fact. In-game, we start out our journey in a moving truck, so I decided to one-up it by starting it on a plane. On August 11th, 2022, on the way to Super Smash Con. I intended to spend my entire first flight just casually soft resetting for a cool-looking trainer ID, but the game had other plans for me. Because I got a really sick one first try. And in the spirit of the Oak Challenge, I named myself Prof, which is of course short for professional football player. In order to get these guys out of my house, I saved Professor Birch from a rabid raccoon dog thing, and I went with my tried and true Hoenn starter, Torchic. And if you thought my trainer ID luck was great, wait till you see my Torchic. It's not shiny, but it's a beautiful, healthy boy. I named my Torchic in flight, in case it wasn't totally clear that I got it on an airplane. And after taking on May, it was time to start catching Pokemon. And my journey down Route 101 was going to start with catching the same Pokemon 5 times. Zigzagoon. This thing is only 10% on this route in Emerald, so you're much better off finding it on Route 103 where it appears 20% of the time. I wasn't aware of this at the time though because I wasn't using any guides yet. I guess you could just say I was winging it. I celebrated my first capture with a cookie, and then it was time to catch the other 4 Zigzagoon. Why exactly am I doing that? Well, you should guess based off of the nicknames that I'm giving them. They all involve the word pick, except for guitar pick because of character space limitations. Instead of being the guitar pick, it's a picture of a guitar now. And they're all named that because of the pickup ability, which is going to be our saving grace in the early game grind here. And let's talk about why, and how this is a little bit trickier in Emerald than it is in Ruby and Sapphire. So if we fast forward a little bit into the future here, I'm going to have to be training Pokemon to some pretty high levels before the first badge. And the higher the levels go, the longer it takes to reach that level. We can speed things up tremendously with rare candies that we can get from Pokemon with the pickup ability, since Pokemon with that ability have a chance of picking up a random item after every battle. Though I wouldn't recommend eating candy picked up off the ground yourself. In Ruby and Sapphire versions, there's one pickup items table. And from the very beginning of the game, if you catch a Zigzagoon and do absolutely nothing with it, if pickup activates, it has a 10% chance of picking up a rare candy. But they changed how things worked in Emerald version. Pickup now has different item tables based on the level of the pickup user. Meaning we have a 0% chance of getting a rare candy until any of our Zigzagoon reach the magical level 21. So in addition to training up all the Pokemon that I need to in this section, I also need to train my 5 Zigzagoon up to level 21. Which might sound like a lot of unnecessary grind, but these will be helpful for pretty much the rest of the run, so the earlier we start collecting these rare candies, the better. But anyway, back to capturing. On my first 2 connecting flights, I caught a lot of the early game Pokemon, like Wurmple, Poochyena, Wingull, Lotad, Tailo, Marill. Shout out to the pickup ability for letting us get Great Balls this early, by the way. And on Route 102, I searched for the 4% Ralts. And finding it took so long, I ate my entire bag of Sun Chips. Though that's really not saying much, because I think this is the world's smallest bag of Sun Chips. I wanted to keep battle animations on because Pokemon have unique entrance animations in Emerald. But after seeing a Wurmple use String Shot 6 times, I was like, yeah, never mind, let's not do that. After 2 hours of grinding on the plane, we landed, and I had 9 Pokemon in the decks.
Alright, so I made it in, and now I've made it to the Battle Pyramid, where I'm awaiting my ride. One of the Frontier Brains is gonna pick me up.
I was picked up from the airport by Brosidon, and we also met up with fellow shiny hunter Waddy, where we did a trade, of course with a different copy of Emerald since we can't trade on the Oak Challenge. We ate some barbecue at a place called Willard's, where I got in some captures in the Petalburg Woods.
Gaming at the barbecue restaurant. We're catching a shroomish for the challenge. Except it's completely focused in on your face instead of the shroom.
The other new capture in the forest here was Slackoth.
Ooh, 5%?
Yeah, 5%.
After dinner, we arrived at the venue just in time for the Smash 64 combo contest, which was my favorite thing to watch every year at SmashCon and incredible to see live. There's a lot to catch on Route 116 east of Rustboro, like Nincada, Whismur, the crowd went crazy when I caught this one, and the Pokemon notorious for teleporting away first turn, Abra, which I used an Ultra Ball on, thanks to the pickup ability. There's also Skitty here, but I couldn't find it yet because it's kind of rare. But I knew I'd find one eventually, going back and forth between the Pokemon Center and my home for the rest of this section, the Rusturf Tunnel. Since Whismur's the only Pokemon there, and it will consistently net us the most experience at this part of the game. Most of the people at the convention seemed pretty interested in this game called Super Smash Bros., so I took occasional breaks from Pokemon Emerald to play that too, I guess. On day 2, Brosidon and I teamed in Smash Ultimate Doubles, and while waiting on our next bracket match, I caught the last Pokemon, or what I thought was the last Pokemon I would need here, Skitty. I may have had a bit of a premature celebration thinking I caught them all at this point. I had totally forgotten about C-Dot. But I didn't really need to worry about this too much because I had so much level grinding that there was no way I was going to reach Roxanne before realizing this anyway. I did a lot of this level grinding in good company too, with a lot of other shiny hunters who were also at the convention.
My team is getting up in the levels. It's almost a normal playthrough except for all the grinding that I'm doing and all the shiny hunters I'm surrounded by right now.
Yeah.
So let's keep going.
I also organized a FunFest mission meetup in Black 2 in order to get an extremely hard to get medal from the medal rally. I already made a separate video about that if you want to see how that went. All in all though, despite playing in multiple tournament brackets, I still found plenty of time to grind between games, and while spectating some matches. Slowly but surely, in the convention hall, I achieved my first goal of this, making sure every Zigzagoon hit the all-important level 21 for pickup, evolving into Linoon in the process. Reaching this point where I had 5 pickup-ready Linoon took me overall 14 hours and 10 minutes of gameplay, which was a lot, but will be well worth it, especially as I start grinding out my starter, Torchic, while spectating the finals. If you watch Melee Grand Finals closely enough, you can see Brosidon and I waving our games up in the air wildly. At level 16, Torchic evolved into Combuskin in what felt like basically no time at all. But the grind from Combuskin to Blaziken was a different story. Reaching level 36 off of Pokemon that only give around 60 EXP can take a while, to the point where even Struggle manages to take them out without problem. That's why it was so important to collect these rare candies. And once I had just enough to get Combuskin to level 36, I used all of them, preparing to collect them again as I began grinding my next Pokemon, after about 3.5 hours of grinding this combat chicken. That next Pokemon being our Slackoth, which is one of the most pesky Pokemon to train up because of the Truant ability, which makes it loaf around every other turn. But before I could make too much progress, the convention was over, and I had to say goodbye to everyone and make my way back home. Which gave me the perfect opportunity to train this thing, because there was nothing better to do on an airplane, especially since they got rid of the Sky Mall magazine full of all sorts of expensive things I would never buy. At level 18, Slackoth evolved into Vigoroth, which was much easier to train because it no longer had the Truant ability. But, like Blaziken, we needed to reach level 36 with this thing for it to evolve into Slacking, and inevitably, leveling up would slow down, unless I collected more rare candies along the way. I figured it would be more time efficient to train up some Pokemon that don't need rare candies to reach their final stage, so we could collect some along the way and come back to Willard the Vigoroth later.
Alright, everyone wave hello to Wheel the Meryl. Look, it waved hello to you. You gotta wave back. Please wave back.
I was wheel ready to start collecting more rare candies here, and on September 8th, while grinding out some Dynamax adventures for another project, I streamed a little bit of this Oak Challenge off in the corner. Believe it or not, I do own a DS capture card. I just prefer to be a Game Boy gremlin most of the time, pointing my camera at the screen. For Meryl, I actually preferred training on Route 116 rather than Rusturf Tunnel, because Route 116 has Wild Nincada, which Water Gun is super effective against. After about half an hour, Wheel evolved into Azumarill at level 18. I'm gonna give it some words of support in the form of this Mewtwo's nickname. Go Wheel! Then, a little under 3 hours later in the same stream, Shroomish evolved into Breloom at level 23. Oh, and Shroomish is evolving! Breloom! Then next up was Poochyena, which would evolve into Mightyena with a very straightforward level grind at level 18. And wait, why am I on another airplane? Oh no. On September 16th, I was about 28 hours into the challenge so far, and I decided to go up to Iowa to visit a longtime shiny hunting friend of mine, Nick, also known as Beast Mode Gaming.
I want Bebops. I want Bebops. I want Bebops.
In the Petalburg Woods.
I had a few missions to complete up here in Iowa, like going to a Casey's store and getting the exclusive Mountain Dew flavor there, since I don't have any near me in Louisiana.
The Mountain Dew Overdrive, and now I can go home, because got the exclusive Dew. Good Iowa trip.
Mmm, yum yum yum.
Alright, let's see if it's worthy of 3 yums.
How many yums are possible?
That's a good question. I feel like... Yum 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 yum!
Oh, no,
quad.
you didn't.
It's a quad, man.
Oh, wow.
Kinda reminds me of like a Skittle.
And recreating a clip from one of our favorite YouTube videos of all time, G&L Idol, a singing competition that takes place at a clothing store called G&L Clothing, where random people are asked to sing their jingle.
G&L Clothing, your size, your style, we've got it all.
However, arriving at the hallowed site, we would learn some unfortunate news.
So, G&L Clothing changed to a boot barn. That's not gonna stop us from recreating one of the greatest videos of all time!
Yeah!
G&L Clothing, your size, your style, we got it all.
We also made it a goal to play a lot of Pokemon, which is the goal that's arguably most relevant to this video.
14 games. We're gonna find 1,400 shinies.
Times 2.
There's no way to get a Moonstone before the first badge, so Skitty won't evolve into Delcatty quite yet.
Do you have any thoughts on that? Whoa, that's just a Game Boy. It's just a Game Boy. Alright, so I evolved Wingull into Pelipper this morning. Next thing I'm going to start training while I'm up here in Iowa
is Tailo, which evolves at level 22. Should be some pretty standard training, nothing really out of the ordinary. Let's grind. In order to evolve Abra into Kadabra, it doesn't have any attacking moves. So we're going to have to do something called switch training in order to evolve it to Kadabra. Switch training is sending out one Pokemon into battle, then switching into something else to finish the battle, so the first one can gain some EXP.
We just encountered a certified watershed moment right here, dude. Classic.
Emerald wasn't the only Pokemon game I played though. We did quite a bit of shiny hunting too.
Shiny Goldie! Dude! Oh my god! Dude!
Yeah! IRL shiny!
Oh my god!
What will Bunk do?
I wish I knew.
After finding the Goldeen, we sat back down again and first encountered this happen.
Shiny Viper!
What?
Dude!
You just started!
That's my first encounter!
You just
That's
started
my first encounter!
That's like back-to-back shinies practically.
What the heck?
Dude!
What? What?
Crazy.
Is that the same game? Okay, let's go. What the hell?
Easy!
What? What is happening?
That is insane!
And I also walked away with 2 shinies for the weekend.
We're a family, no matter what anyone says.
Oh, this is called There Are People in the House.
Shiny Lotad! Shiny
Oh, dude!
Alright, so I've been hunting on these 6 games for most of this IRL, and this morning I woke up, decided to do a little bit more grinding on this Professor Oak's challenge, and random shiny Whismer! This is sick though, this is my 3rd Whismer. Hopefully it'll be the second one that I catch. I failed one because it roared in Victory Road in like 2013. But this will definitely be the one I evolve into Exploud for this challenge. Forget about the Whismer I've already got in my PC. Iowa.
Nice.
There it is, Iowa. There's the old one. 64 combo. 64 combo. You're getting banished to box 14. I don't care about you anymore. Because we got Iowa right here. Docile.
Docile.
Normal Wurmple. Iowa.
To celebrate the first random shiny of this Oak challenge, we had Baja Blasts.
The Baja Boys.
Baja Boys.
The Baja Men. Who let the dogs out? Who let the shiny Whisper into my Pokemon Emerald game? Me.
And then my time in Iowa had to come to a close. So I flew back home and kept grinding.
Upon getting home and checking a guide for the first time, I realized that there was one Pokemon I was forgetting about.
Seedot, which can either be found 1% of the time down Route 102, or be obtained through an in-game trade if you can find the 4% Ralts there first. And I found another Ralts. So I caught it and I took it to Rustboro City, where we can do the in-game trade to get a special Seedot named Dots.
Look, Ma, no link cable. No wireless adapter either, because that's what the game shows, I guess. Dots!
And while I was on that same walk, I trained this thing up to level 14.
Seedot? Seedot, do not slip on the banana peel. Do not slip on the banana peel. Oh no! Seedot, please listen.
Where it evolved into Nuzleaf. Now with 28 Pokemon and almost 36 hours on the board, I would take another break until I had another visit from a friend. Which wasn't this guy, that's just the Wurmple I'm about to train. It was Mr. Let's Play It.
Guess what it's gonna evolve into? Silcoon or Cascoon?
Silcoon.
Alright, let's see.
I'm feeling Silcoon.
Oh.
Don't tell me.
It's Silcoon.
Then I went to Petalburg Woods and caught the other counterpart, Cascoon, and evolved each of them into Beautifly and Dustox at level 10. Despite being 4 separate Pokemon, this is one of the shortest grinds of this entire section. I continued with the bug theme and trained Nincada next. We saw lots of cool stuff this weekend, like some flying types that were a threat to my bug's safety, but the best thing we saw was some weird guy.
I wanna roll with the gangsters. So far right now, think I'm too white and nerdy. And just too white and nerdy. And just too white and nerdy.
After this weekend, I reached the conclusion that I would never finish this challenge if I only did it while hanging out with people. So I decided to finally sit down and take it on my own time, while also grinding out another level 100 gauntlet. And I'm glad I happened to be recording at this time, because something kinda crazy happened.
Shiny Whismer! Live! What? What? How did I get that live, man? Dude, what on earth? Now I have the whole Whismer line shiny in Gen 3. This is my 3rd Whismer, so with this, I can have a Whismer, Loudred, and Exploud. So I'm gonna name this one Louisiana, because that's where I am right now. That's kind of crazy, and it's docile. Dude, this one's also docile. Hold on. What if these are RNG clones of each other?
And they were. They're the exact same Whismer, down to the very PID and IVs. This is a side effect of Emerald's broken RNG. The game doesn't properly start from a different initial seed every time you boot it up, and instead starts from the same seed. So if you perform the exact same actions within about 1/60th of a second, you can land on the same exact Pokemon every time you boot up the game. The thing is, this frame is almost 20 minutes into the game, which is at least 70,000 frames in, and I somehow managed to hit it by pure coincidence twice. The exact same fraction of a second, which is absolutely insane and has never happened to me before. Even though they're the same Pokemon, I still treat it just as special as any other shiny encounter I've ever had. Especially because I had not been manipulating the RNG whatsoever to make this happen. Anyway, once Nincada reached level 19, I deposited one of my Linoon to have an extra party space, and then evolved it into Ninjask as soon as it hit level 20, and got a free Shedinja as well. After that, it was finally time to move back to the big boys of this section, starting with Willard the Vigoroth, since I had collected a lot more rare candies now.
I'm gonna give old Willard a few rare candies till it evolves. We got so many. Alright, slacking time. Now we just got 2 difficult evolutions left. I'm gonna save the cool shiny for last. Now unfortunately with Ralts, we're gonna have to start with some switch training, because it knows one move. Growl.
At level 6, Ralts learns Confusion, and here's a perfect example of that in action.
What? What? This one's female this time, and I got it live again! I was just live recording to show how... What? Random shiny Ralts! How? Dude, this one's female this time, so it's not an RNG clone.
Though I couldn't demonstrate Ralts' confusion here, I was definitely confused. This thing knocked me out, and as soon as I switched into my Linoon, I guess my muscle memory took over, and did what I normally did while switch training.
Oh, I knocked it out! I'm so stupid! I autopiloted and knocked it out!
This mistake was so stupid, I didn't tell anyone till now.
This is the stupidest thing.
Feel free to laugh.
So when Ralts hit level 16, it learned Teleport. I can use Teleport to go back to the Pokemon Center. Oh no, where'd my SP go? I think that worked a little too well.
At level 20, Ralts evolved into Kirlia, and after some admittedly kinda wasteful rare candies, at level 30, into Gardevoir.
Now, all that remains is the Pokemon that's really been the real star of this section. Whismur. And with this thing we have to reach level 40, which is the highest level of this entire section of the game.
Training Whismur is actually super easy. The soundproof ability makes it so you're immune to Wild Whismur's uproar, so you just spam pound while they can hardly hurt you most of the time.
Alright, level 20 Whismur. We're about to get a Loudred. Iowa is evolving. If you live in Iowa, go outside right now and check it out. The landscape is crazy. Oh, I'm excited to see this. Shiny Loudred. That actually looks pretty decent. Like, if you looked at it at a total glance, you might not immediately tell that it's shiny, but if you compare it to a regular Loudred, it's pretty clear.
Then at level 40, Exploud.
They grow up so fast. Iowa's evolving again. Shiny Exploud. Really doesn't look all that different in this generation, but it's still pretty cool. After 48 hours and 38 minutes, this file now has 39 Pokemon. We have completed the first part of this Professor Oak challenge.
Then, we obliterated Roxanne in a gym battle. These battles are merely but obstacles in the way of completing the dex for Professor Oak. On to Section 2. From here on out, I'll be referring to Mulax's Emerald Guide. It's really well written and there will be a link to it in the description. So let's start Section 2.
Don't take my goods! In all caps.
After recovering the goods, we can go to Dewford Town, which you would think would be the location of our second badge, because of Brawly there, but we can actually skip him for now. First things first, I decided to update the trendy phrase just for fun.
Going date? No, it's not that big happening thing for me right now, honestly. I'd say alternate colored Pokemon are pretty happening. We got the shiny hunting duo. We got an ISHC team forming right here. I collect official alternate colored Pokemon licensed merchandise. Hey, me too, kid. Look at this. I collect those as well.
And in terms of actually important things, I got the old rod from this guy. We've got some fishing to do. We got 3 things to fish up and 2 different fishing spots. Pretty much anywhere, you can find a Magikarp. In Dewford Town, you can find Tentacool. And back in Petalburg City, you can get Goldeen. And that's all we can get with this old rod for right now. When we unlock better, bigger fishing rods, we can do more later on. Then it was time to go into the darkness of Granite Cave and capture some cave-dwelling Pokemon. Like Aron, Zubat, which is of course short for Zubathu, the ghostly Pokemon Sableye, the doodly Pokemon Geodude, and the Makuhita-ly Pokemon Makuhita. I give up on that now. Deeper in the cave, if you hand the letter to Steven, we can sail to Slateport, where we can catch a lot more Pokemon on Route 110 to the north, like Gulpin, Chungoose. This guy was pretty funny back in Brawl, and Electrike, which I caught backwards in this mysterious unlicensed mirror that I got from my Oppo when I was 6. I still wonder where this came from. Oddish, which I had to name Calzone, of course, and this generation's Pikachu clones, Plusle and Minun. Minun is the more common one. I'll come back for Plusle later. Then, after a rival battle, we can make our way to Route 117 to catch the Firefly duo, Volbeat and Illumise. Illumise is the more common one in Emerald, and of course I'll go back for Volbeat later. And now with pretty much everything caught, we can take a deep dive into more level grinding. And oh no, this is about to be another Mountain Dew taste test, isn't it?
Okay, so let's pour this in. I wonder what color it's gonna be. It looks about the same color as Baja Blast. Does not seem to be like super dark or anything. Oh yeah. It's definitely like they mixed Pitch Black with the Baja Blast. It's kind of like grape flavored in a way. It's pretty decent.
Now I have access to the bike, meaning I can go much faster. You're going to need to use both the Mach and the Acro bikes to capture everything in this challenge anyway, but I decided to start with the Mach bike.
I'm gonna start with Zubat. Zubat is something we're going to have to keep in our party for a while because of Crobat's friendship evolution. So, I might as well start right now with this thing.
And I have a new home that's much better than Rusturf Tunnel for level grinding, Route 117. Among all the beautiful flowers here, we have much higher level Pokemon to battle, and Illumise gives off a good amount of EXP. We can also backtrack to Rustboro and get the experience share from the Devon Corporation. I know a lot of people don't like using these in these Oak challenges, but I will be using it at the lower levels, because it's just a more convenient way of switch training when a Pokemon is typically helpless anyway. Then, when I was helping film a video for my brother Mike about washing a truck for the first time in 21 years, I trained up this Zubat, and at level 24, it evolved into Golbat. We were still a ways away from being at max friendship for it to evolve into Crobat, so I just kept it in my party, in place of one of my pickup Linoon.
If you're one of the haters who thought Mew would never have Drip, please explain this. I would love to hear an explanation for this.
With a fresh and clean truck, the next Pokemon I trained was Magikarp. A totally helpless Pokemon till it gets Tackle at level 15. After an hour of training and some of my favorite pizza, it evolved into Gyarados at level 20. Then on October 16th, I trained up a Pokemon that was much easier to use than Magikarp or Zubat, Makuhita, and at level 24, it became a Hariyama.
I've done literally hundreds of encounters and evolved multiple Pokemon. Finally, 1% Volbeat has appeared. This might be the longest I've gone looking for a single 1% in any Pokemon game I've played. I think I did at least 500 encounters looking for Volbeat here, and our file is at 56 hours and 14 minutes.
Shortly after, at level 26, Electrike evolved into Manectric. On October 22nd, it was Rumble weekend, and I decided to multitask by hunting in Rumble and training my Pokemon at the same time, starting with evolving Gulpin into Swalot at level 26. Then coincidentally with a shiny Swalot on screen, a Goldeen into Seaking at level 33, which was a nice level to hit without using any rare candies, and Tentacool into Tentacruel at level 30. And I also found a crazy amount of Rumble shinies, so it didn't slow me down at all to be grinding on the side. With a new nickname given by Brosidon, Buford the Geodude became a Graveler. And finally, Golbat had gained enough friendship to evolve into a Crobat, just by being in my party while I walked around. Today's October 26th, and only 2 Pokemon remain for this part of the challenge. Aron, which is going to be the longest grind up to level 42, and Oddish. I'm not going to be the one training this Oddish though. I'm going to call in someone else for help. Let me go get him real quick. The following footage does not reflect the views of AbsolBlog's Pokemon. Alright, I'm in the zone. Calzone here. Heard there was an Oddish to train. So we're going to train this Oddish up. Oh, it's a little known fact that Calzone prefers to play his games cubed. Magnificent. Beautiful. A work of art, honestly. That right there, folks, is an Oddish. Oh, a wild Oddish. I can't bear to see this carnage. Let's run. Level up. Level up, baby. I don't even have to look. I don't have to look at the screen. It's the best Pokemon that ever was, ever is, and ever will be. And don't you dare forget it. Or my name's not Calzone. That's right, baby. Victory. Level 21. Unfortunately, Oddish no longer will be an Oddish after this. It's gonna become a Gloom. And you know what? I hate Gloom, because it's not Oddish. Reviewing the footage, I was pretty shocked by this. I had never seen the tensions get this high with Calzone before. I had heard he had never once evolved an Oddish in his life before. He failed to see that the Gloom was the Oddish that he once knew. Actually, you know what? I think Gloom is still a friend. My job here is done. Okay, so now that we've had that emotional performance from Cal, 1 Pokemon remains. Aron. It's time to turn this thing into, as the Ho and Poke Rap would say, 72 hours on the file right now. Halloween was definitely in the air while I trained this Aron, especially at the annual Halloween hangout with friends where we play somewhat freaky games. And then on the actual Halloween day, at level 32 it evolved into Lairon. Some other spooky things happened, like me actually using my capture card and almost forgetting to catch Plusle before taking on Watson's gym, which would make me fail the challenge. I had been collecting rare candies throughout this section, but had not used a single one until I beat Watson's last gym trainer. Then I used 4 to get Lairon to level 42, where it would evolve into Aggron. With 77 hours and 46 minutes on the board, 29 hours and 8 minutes after finishing Section 1, Watson fell, and so did Section 2 of the challenge. Believe it or not, over the past 7 years, I've only traveled by flying 3 times. And all 3 of them were over the course of making this video. I started out Section 3 by getting Rock Smash, and I backtracked to Granite Cave where we would find one of 2 exclusive Rock Smash encounters in the game. Nose Pass. The other one's in the post-game. Also with Rock Smash we can move north of Mauville and now go to Route 111, and Fiery Path, where we have quite a few Pokemon to catch, and quite a few in-flight rules to break in the process. Starting with Numel, which can also be found outside on Route 112, and Machop, which can also be found in both places, the Toxic Gas guy, Coughing, the Toxic Sludge guy, Grimer, the non-toxic but probably very harmful to the touch Slug guy, Slugma, and the one not following the no smoking sign on the plane, Torkoal.
To prepare for landing, please close your tray table and put away carry-on items. Place your seat in the full upright position.
I also decided to play a little bit of Legends Arceus on the plane to see if I could find a shiny up in the air. Of course, having to use headphones so I could hear the shiny sound. And it paid off. I got a shiny Graveler, which I named Air Rock, because it was a rock that was found in the air. And then I went back to Emerald, where outside of Fiery Path we can now access Route 113, Route 114, and Meteor Falls. With volcanic ash falling from the sky, on Route 113 I caught a super unique 1 in 4 billion Spinda pattern that's probably not all that unique, because it's pretty early into the frames on this copy of Emerald. A Skarmory, which resembled the plane with its steel wings. A Swablu, which felt right at home in the air. Seviper, a snake on this Monday to Friday plane, or maybe this just stands for snack on a plane. And watching the sunset over Tampa Bay, the Sun Rock Pokemon, Solrock. We're going to Florida. Also, while in Meteor Falls, we need to try and steal a Sunstone from a wild Solrock. We'll also get the only Moonstone that's available in Pokemon Emerald, with no repeatable way of getting any others. This feels like a massive oversight if you ask me. I was in Florida for a cousin's wedding, but I also hung out with some friends there. And while hanging out, I managed to get the Sunstone.
Sunstone! Mountain Dew Fruit Quake.
Is it good? You like it?
It tastes like Lifesavers.
Florida was a really fun time, but unsurprisingly I didn't really play much Pokemon while I was there, spending most of my time playing while I was on the flight. I still did get in some level grinding at some appropriate times though. Honestly, the new routes we have access to for this section don't really feel all that different from Route 117 in terms of experience yield. You just need to pick an area that matches your Pokemon's strength the most as you train. We have to stick to wild battles for now because we don't have access to trainer rematches until we beat Norman. Upon arriving home, Slugma evolved into Macargo at level 38, and I decided to go up and down the cable car until I saw someone hiking up the mountain, which is a rare event that can happen.
There's a picnic. We got someone.
There we go. In Florida, I had also forgotten to go to Jagged Pass and grab this guy, Spoink, which I named John Tent because of what I was watching, and to go pick up this egg from Lava Ridge Town. To get us a Why Not. Imagine how difficult this challenge would be if the only way to get the Why Not Wobbuffet line was Mirage Island. This section doesn't have a lot of Pokemon in it, but most of the Pokemon here evolve at pretty high levels. And battling against Lombre can get pretty annoying sometimes because of Stun Spore paralyzing. After about an hour of grinding, Spoink evolved into Grumpig at level 32. I also decided to go ahead and knock out our Stone evolutions. The only Moonstone evolution we can do during this challenge, Skitty into Delcatty, and with a Sunstone, Gloom into Bellossom. At level 33, my Numble named Turbulence turbulently evolved into Camerupt, and after not touching the game for a couple weeks after the release of Scarlet Violet to the point where you could see an imprint of my SP on the couch, I evolved Swablu into Altaria at level 35. With a factory error banner from the party store that read Cheers and Bitters, on December 16th while hanging out with some friends playing some Smash 64 from an alternate universe, I started training up Grimer, which was pretty easy to use because of the move Sludge. And the next day, on the way to a hiking spot, it evolved into Muk.
Hey, we got Muk.
Woo!
We also found a Salamander.
3, 2, 1. Marble salamander.
Oh, yeah.
Just like I was talking about right
Yeah,
there.
dude.
Anyone else home? Marbled salamander. You can really see the pattern here.
On the way home from the hike, I trained Machop, and it evolved into Machoke at level 28.
Woo!
Now only coughing and wheezing are between me and battling Flannery.
And because it's pretty clear I don't already own enough Game Boys, I got an analog pocket during this time too, which I'll be using a lot. While visiting my family back home for Christmas, I trained up my coughing. I don't think I needed to use any rare candies at all during this section, but I decided to expedite these last 4 levels of coughing to get it to wheezing at level 38. Now at 98 hours and 17 minutes, which is 20 hours and 30 minutes after finishing last section, part 3 was complete when I took down Flannery. And now on to arguably one of the shortest sections. Put on your go goggles, we're gonna need them. Only one area opens up in this section, the desert of Route 111. On Christmas morning, I set out into the desert, and I investigated this weird Mirage Tower. At the top of the tower you have the choice between the root fossil and the claw fossil, but you'll eventually get the other one later anyway. I regret choosing the root fossil early on because Lileep is harder to train than Anorith. That aside, there are a few other desert captures, like Baltoy, Trapinch, which will be our longest level grind so far, Cacnea, and Sandshrew. With the last Pokemon captured, I did some backtracking to Rustboro and revived Lileep from the fossil. Then, having hit 100 hours of gameplay, it was time to start level grinding this Lileep, while opening some presents with the family. Here's some of my loot.
So squishy. Got a Pikachu ornament. This insane suit.
Cart Pro Shops.
Can't forget the Baja Blast socks.
I also got a brand new shell to revitalize this nasty old Game Boy Advance that my brother and my dad found in the junkyard. It's got this really cool wood grain look. I don't think I centered the screen very well, so I'm going to try and fix that before I use it in any more videos. I also got this gold SP shell, which you'll see later in this video. Once the new year hit, on a drive to another hike, I evolved Lileep into Craydilly and started training Baltoy. The Pokemon in the desert aren't a great source of EXP, so we're going to train in the old spots that we did last badge.
Dude, it's the Eiffel Tower.
The Eiffel Tower.
It's just so foggy you can't see up.
At the end of a fulfilling first day of 2023, Baltoy evolved into Claydol. Then I trained Cacnea into Cacturn. And then it was time to train Sandshrew, which I did while doing the final watch-through of my Scarlet movie before posting it.
Look at Sandshrew's back sprite. It's just a little guy. It's just a little guy.
I love playing Pokemon while doing the final watch-through of my movies before releasing them, and I can only wonder what game I'll be playing through when I release this Emerald movie. Then it was time for the biggest grind of this section. training Trapinch to level 35 to become a Vibrava, and then to level 45 to become a Flygon. This is the highest level Pokemon so far in this entire challenge. So let's go through this long and arduous grind. Got 38 rare candy, so we have more than enough. Take some real effort here. Whew, this is a workout. Man, what a grind. What a grind, dude. That took a while. Flygon. 109 hours and 51 minutes so far. Now, we have to take on Brawly, because we can't battle the next gym leader, Norman, until we have 4 badges. We don't unlock anything new for the challenge by defeating Brawly, so we can head straight to Norman, and take him on too. It's nice to be able to take down 2 gym leaders with one section here, especially before a section as massive as the next. Defeating Norman lets us use Surf outside of battle, which pretty much opens up the rest of the Hoenn region to us. I started out by heading north of Rustboro to Route 115, where something unexpected happened.
Oh, I bumped the cartridge.
After resetting and making my way all the way up there again, I searched for a Jigglypuff in the grass. Ideally a female one, because we will also need to hatch Igglybuff. Since there's only one Moonstone in the game, this thing will never evolve into Wigglytuff. Going back to Mauville, we can get the basement key from Watson and go to New Mauville, where I was lucky enough to get the 1% Magneton first encounter. You can also catch Voltorb, Electrode, and Magnemite here. Don't sweat it if you don't find an Electrode here. There's a guaranteed one we can catch later. We also need to pick up a Thunderstone here. There was a brief period of time where I only played this game in short intervals on walks, by the way. After not receiving a game-breaking Latios from Steven because this is not Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, I got the Good Rod, and I also went to Route 119, where after taking out Team Aqua at the Weather Institute, we're given a free cast form.
Just got the Fly HM, but sadly we won't be able to use it till like the end of the game.
I immediately made my way towards Route 120 to catch my favorite Pokemon Absol, but then I couldn't move much further because of some invisible object in the way. Turns out, it was a Kecleon. Then I turned on my newly shelled Gold SP for the first time, and went to Mount Pyre, where I caught a Shuppet, saw a shiny Gravestone, caught a Duskull, and outside caught a Vulpix, which was our 111th Pokemon at the 111th hour of gameplay. Then another night, I turned on the DS capture card, and decided I'd make some story progress, but not without first capturing the 2% Chimecho at the summit of Mount Pyre. I took out Team Magma at their base, did a strength puzzle in the Fiery Path to get a Firestone so I could evolve Vulpix into Ninetales, went back to Route 119 to catch the Banana Dinosaur Tropius, got the Master Ball and caught an Electrode at the Aqua Hideout, took down a fellow Matt to beat Team Aqua, and got the Super Rod, without even using my Good Rod yet. I immediately made use of this Super Rod in the nearby ocean, catching a Whalmer and a Staryu. Then I made my way all the way down to Evergrande City to catch a Corsola and a Love Disc. Then on another night, while I was grinding some Scarlet and Violet raids, I surfed on Route 129 near Pacific Log, until I found the 1% Wild Wailord. There's the Wailord. It might actually be faster to train up a Whalmer than to catch this thing, but it's too cool for me to not search for. Then west of Pacific Log, I fished up a Sharpedo and a Horsey. I then made my way all the way to Shoal Cave near Moss Deep City. Bear in mind we can't use Fly, so I do have to manually do all this backtracking, and ideally we want it to be at low tide in there, so we can access a special room. Unfortunately though, it was too late into the night, so we can't do anything there yet, and we have to wait for it to be low tide again. I'll explain that in a minute, but while I was waiting I did get a nice consolation prize. Oh, shiny Rookidee! I was wondering what that was. So every 6 real-life hours, Shoal Cave swaps between high tide and low tide, and certain encounters are only possible at low tide. And all of this only happens if the internal battery in your cartridge is properly working, because otherwise it'll be frozen in time at one state, and clock-based events won't occur. I changed out my Emerald's battery before starting this challenge, so all I had to do was wait. I went to bed pretty late, and I thought I was probably going to miss the next time low tide started. But in the morning, my power went out, and things got so quiet that it woke me up at the perfect time to enter Shoal Cave at low tide, where I can capture Spheal, and as soon as the power came back on, in the special room only accessible at low tide, Snow Run. And then we had a bunch of captures to do in the Safari Zone, but oddly I had no recollection of doing any of these in the first place. It's like someone else might have recorded the footage for this. In the first area we can find Giraffarig. There's the next thing we need, Dodwo. I'm pretty sure that's how you say it. That's how I've been saying it, and I'm the owner of this place. I guess that's not how you say it. The Dodwo fled. Doduo? That's how you say it, Doduo. It was not too long before Cal caught a Natu, and then the mascot of the Pokemon series, Pikachu.
Let's go. Let's go.
There's also an area we can only access via Mach Bike. Here's what Cal caught there. Rhyhorn. Rhyhorn, as some would say. Pinsir. Got it. Dodrio. Got it. We also gotta surf a little bit here, because this is the only place in the game where Psyduck is. I got a special, exclusive deal with the Psyduck population. Because I'm Calzone. And then a wild Golduck. Because Calzone decided to be sponsored by Rydell Cycles, you need both bikes to catch everything in the Safari Zone. So we had to backtrack all the way to Mauville City to swap out to the Acro Bike. And since we can't fly, this is a bit of a trek. But we can teleport back after swapping bikes. Then in the Acro Bike section, these are the exclusive encounters. There's a Phanpy. We do need this one. Little Elephant. Evolved Natu. The sequel, Xatu. Oh, it does a weird thing when it breaks out of the Pokeball for a frame. You see that? There's a 5%. Look at the popping 3D. Who needs a 3DS when you got 3D Heracross right there? Let's go! Thank you, Heracross. Then Calzone took an additional unnecessary detour here, and swapped Pikachu to the front of the party with its static ability to draw out more Pikachu, to capture them until one of them was holding the 5% Light Ball item. We'll see why he did this later. Light Ball check. Hot dog, we got it! That was on the 18th Pikachu. I guess my work here is done. Alright, so now we caught everything in the Safari Zone. Let's go back to Mauville City. Let's get the Mach Bike again. And then let's go fishing. We got a lot of fishing to do. The next thing we need to hunt, fish. Alright, so the first mainland fishing hunt we're going to take on is the most daunting in the game. And no, I'm not talking about Corphish, which evolves into Crawdaunt. We'll catch that later. We're, of course, fishing for the Feebas on Route 119. Out of all the water tiles on Route 119, only 6 of them can yield Feebas. And the location of these 6 tiles is totally random. Whenever you do find a Feebas spot too, it's not guaranteed you'll see one. They only have a 50% encounter rate. So I'll have to fish multiple times on each tile until I find one that has a Feebas in it. I led my party with Soup the Cradilly because of its suction cups ability, which makes it so Pokemon we fish up bite more often. I worked my way down each tile, fishing 3 times on each one, and I opted to use the Super Rod because I think the Pokemon that you can find that way is the coolest. Carvana, which we also needed to catch. So earlier, I went on that walk at 5 p.m. Feebas hates me. February 5th, I went to go get a Baja Blast this morning, only to realize they only had small cups today. But my luck was better in a different department. I found Feebas. I'm gonna catch a few of these, because I want one that's a nature that likes dry food for Milotic. I searched every tile south of here, and then made my way north
If I started going north, I would have found this in like an hour.
Now we need to evolve this thing into Milotic, which is a very special evolution, and which is why I was looking for this mild nature one that favors dry food. We have to max out its beauty condition by feeding it Pokeblocks, which are made by blending berries. Now getting the berries that I need for this was a bit of a challenge, because I didn't realize having a game with a working battery would mean that if I didn't instantly go and collect the berries while I could on routes, they would eventually disappear forever. So I had to rely on some weird repeatable ways to get berries that aren't as efficient as just picking them from the trees. Thankfully, our good friend Calzone managed to catch a lot of Pikachu holding Oran berries in the Safari Zone. But without connecting to other games and without being in the post-game, Oran berries alone aren't going to get your Feebas into a Milotic. We need at least one stronger dry berry. That's where the Berry Master comes in. If you save in Soft Reset in front of the guy on Route 123, just keep going until you get a Kelpsy berry. Then you're going to want to do some berry blending with some very specific people in Lily Cove City.
Alright, here's the golden combination, hear me out. You speak with this man here and blend a bunch of Oran berries to create some level 12 dry Pokeblocks. Then, you take your one Kelpsy berry you got from the Berry Master, and you blend the Kelpsy berry with these 4 people. You should have just enough for Milotic. Woohoo.
Now with the most time-consuming fish in the game out of the way, it was time to fish up some smaller fry, like Corefish on Route 117, and Barboach on Route 111. Now we're going to put our Light Ball Pikachu to use. First I used a Thunderstone to evolve one of my Pikachu into Raichu, and then I put it into the daycare with another Pikachu holding our Light Ball from earlier, so I could get an egg and hatch a Pichu. And the special thing about this Pichu is that it knows the move Volt Tackle. Emerald was the first game to introduce this capability. Also, putting Jigglypuff in the daycare from earlier, we can get Igglybuff, and putting in a Marill holding a sea incense which can be found at Mount Pyre, we can hatch Azurill. And now we're done backtracking. Let's trek back to Lily Cove City through Fortree City and start training. Then on a trip back home where I reminisced over some cool old stuff and learned that this was only a 3-star game according to Steve, I discovered the true way I would be level grinding for this section. Trainer rematches. The process of rebattling trainers registered in your Pokénav is a lot simpler than a lot of people make it out to be. Just run back and forth, entering and exiting the area where there's the trainer you want to rebattle, and typically within the next minute or so, they'll be looking for a rematch. Route 120 has quite a few rematchable trainers, and they only get stronger every time you fight them until their Pokemon are in the 40s, which makes fighting them an experience goldmine. In practically no time, I was able to evolve Shuppet into Bayonet and Duskull into Dusclops. Then, at a junkyard with all kinds of tire treads, Phanpy evolved into Donphan, which is just regular treads, with just regular tusks. I also went for a couple long walks and didn't realize how awful the screen looked on camera, so you'll just have to trust me that this is a Barboach evolving into Whiscash here. The Whiscash was so beautiful the camera refused to focus on it. And not a Koraidon, not a Miraidon, a regular Rhydon evolved from Rhyhorn. To compensate for the poor quality footage, here is some clear as day footage of birds. This dog is named Birdie, so she counts too. Then it was time to get ice cold and start training Spheal. Look at it go. Spheal evolved at level 32 into Celio and then into Walrein at level 44. One of the trainers here has an Exploud, so I was actually able to see the comparison between normal and shiny Exploud while training. These trainer rematches are so fast and efficient that I was able to level up every Pokemon I needed for this section in one weekend. Like Snorunt into Glalie at level 42. No rare candies required. Then I evolved Corphish into Crawdaunt, and Horsey into Seadra. I'd say the one downside to doing these trainer rematches is that I'm not encountering nearly as many Pokemon, meaning there's almost no way I'll encounter a random shiny.
Shiny Gloom! What? What? Oh, no way! Oh, the 4th shiny! The 4th random shiny overall during this Professor Oak challenge. And this is my first 1 in 8192 shiny of 2023. And I got it live. Live recording. This is nuts. I was chilling watching Skyfish Jack stream hunting Zorua, and while I was on this ridiculous double face cam setup, gentle, shiny gloom. Calzone would be astounded at this right now.
I would have immediately used a leaf stone to make this thing a Vileplume, but unfortunately I already used the one leaf stone available up to this point to turn Nuzleaf into Shiftry. And that puts us at 156 Pokemon in the Dex. And 132 hours of gameplay, meaning we can now take on Tate and Liza.
And with that, the biggest catching segment is complete.
With Tate and Liza defeated, we can now dive underwater and catch a few deep-sea critters. Like Clamperl, which will never evolve because we can't trade doing this challenge. Then we need to collect some shard items for some additional stone evolutions, either from the ocean floor, in places only accessible by diving, or by stealing them from the Pokemon that live there. We're going to need 1 green shard and 2 blue shards, and take them to this house west of Moss Deep City, where we can trade them for water stones and leaf stones. So we can evolve Gloom into Vileplume, Lombre into Ludicolo, and Staryu into Starmie. Then I took care of some business down at the seafloor cavern and watched Archie make a major oopsie. Don't mind me, I'm just fishing here. So I guess let's kick off the climax of the game and catch the cover legendary. We need to climb the sky pillar in order to awaken Rayquaza. The first time you climb it, there aren't as many cracks in the floor, so it can be done with anything. But after we go back to Sootopolis and watch this crazy cutscene, in order to capture Rayquaza, we need the Mach Bike. Because the second time you climb the tower, there are cracks in the floor.
Got it! Magikarp. Now let's go to Pacifidlog and catch the Reggies.
Now to set up what I've previously called in a video my favorite legendary encounters in all of Pokemon. If we use Dig on this door right here, and then put a Relicanth at the front of our party and then a Wailord at the back, wait, no, it's the other way around, I always get this mixed up, we'll be able to open up some chambers and find the Reggies. First, at Island Cave, if we run around the perimeter of the cave, we can unlock the door and catch Regice. Then at the Desert Ruins, if we walk here and Rock Smash on this specific tile, we can catch Regirock. But I'm not going to be catching it on the capture card. I'm going to use advanced technology for the highest quality capture ever recorded.
Alright, so I'm back in this other room. Emerald is in the GameCube slot, so we're playing this on the old CRT, right? Wrong. This is a Game Boy game. Thus, it needs to be played on a Game Boy. Most normal Pokemon Emerald setup.
What you're seeing here on my Game Boy is what's supposed to be the TV output of my GameCube, playing the Game Boy game. Just listen to that high quality audio. This is truly how the Game Boy player was meant to be used.
Man, this is the crustiest.
And it only took a few wires and cables and a very clunky Game Boy TV tuner to accomplish. I'm sorry I didn't record the rest of this video using this setup.
Caught it. Oh yeah, we caught Regirock. Now time for the most fun part of any GameCube Game Boy session. The eject button.
Then for Registeel we have something truly special. One of the only required uses of Flash in any Professor Oak challenge, where if you stand in the center of the room and use it, the door unlocks. And then the three of them were caught. leaving us with only one evolution before finishing this section. Chinchou into Lantern. Only a few hours after our previous badge, we could get our 7th badge by fighting Juan. We are so close to the end right now. Also, this picture of Mario on my DS goes unreasonably hard. Now we can use Waterfall, and we're only 2 captures away from using Fly. But these 2 captures are across the map from each other, so we have one last final trek to make before we can fly anywhere we want. It may be weird to start here first, but I started out at Meteor Falls catching Bagon. Because we're going to need to grind this thing up to Salamence, and I figured I could probably do that in the process of going to the other spot in Victory Road, where on one of the lower floors we can catch a Mawile. We can't really progress to the Pokemon League at this point though, because we would fail the badge check, so let's go grind our Bagon. After piggybacking off some battles in Victory Road, it evolved pretty quickly into Shelgon. But once it reached Shelgon, we have to raise it to level 50 to become Salamence. I trained it up a little bit off the Gym Trainer's Pokemon in Winona's gym, but then I realized I still had a ton of rare candies left over and there wasn't much left to use them on. So I mashed the A button like crazy to get this thing to level 50. Salami. Then I could take down Winona and get my 8th and final badge. But this section's not over yet, until we defeat the Pokemon League. Normally this would be the end of a challenge like this, but there's a lot left to go after we take down the champion, Wallace. Look at that number right there. I already qualify as a Pokemon Professor, you know it! That was the challenge. After 140 hours and 12 minutes, I entered the Pokemon League, and the final section of this challenge. This section starts out seeing a colored Pokemon on TV, and then receiving the National Dex from Birch. Then we have a lot to go collect. Going to Moss Deep City, we can pick up a Beldum from Steven's house. Then going to the Desert Underpass near Fall Arbor Town, we can catch a Ditto, and get the fossil we didn't pick earlier on Route 111, the Claw Fossil, to get Anorith. Then we gotta go to the Battle Frontier. Not to battle, but to get a few Pokemon. Like trading with this lady with an unfortunate name, a Skitty, for a Meowth. Then if we water this weird tree with our Whalmer Pail, we can catch a Sudowoodo, and the path that the weird tree was blocking lets us go to Artisan Cave where we can catch Smeargle. Then if we go to the Weather Institute and talk to the guy on the upper floor, we can learn where there is heavy rainfall currently. And if we go to that route, we can find Marine Cave, where we can catch the legendary Kyogre. Dude, what a cool animation. Kyogre caught. If we go back to that guy again, we learn about a drought, and we can catch the legendary Groudon at Terra Cave. Groudon caught. Then we unlocked a new section of the Safari Zone, where we have a ton of Pokemon to catch. Almost all of them are standard grass encounters, except for Remoraid, which can be found through fishing, Wooper, which can be found through surfing, and Shuckle, which can be found through rock smashing. Then I started the biggest grind of this section, grinding Beldum all the way up into Metagross. It evolves into Metang at level 20, after only learning Takedown till that point. But then I forgot I hadn't caught everything yet. I still needed to catch the roaming Latios. The evening of February 24th, Ronk is doing a pizza stream. There's a picture of my pizza right there. I am looking for Latios and enjoying this pizza. Alright, so I'm on Route 110, Maxwell Repel, level 40 Pokemon at the front of my party. This method right here with the Cycling Roadhouse appears to be the fastest way to find the roamer for the first time if you have no way of getting it in your decks beforehand. There are a lot of other methods described online that involve taking a tour of the Hoenn region, but I find this one a lot easier to do. Within only a couple minutes, I found Latios, and used my one Master Ball on it. There it is. I'm just gonna Master Ball it. I'm sorry if you wanted to see me catch it in a cool ball. Then it was time for the final grind session, where I fought Hariyama in 2 different regions at once. The cool thing about grinding in the postgame is that every so often after a certain number of battles, you have a chance of getting a gym leader rematch. I got to fight Roxanne a couple times during these last few levels here, After not too long, Metang evolved into Metagross, Meowth with its trade-boosted experience evolved into Persian, and then we had a bunch of easy rare candy evolutions with the Safari Zone Pokemon, since most of them were just one level away.
Hold up. We got an audience. Who's that snot-nosed brat?
I didn't do anything super cool during this final section, like going on an airplane, but I did get most of it done in one day, which was pretty crazy. All that was left now was using another Sunstone on Sunkern. Not the Pokemon I expected to be the final one.
Alright, we're at the finale. Let's touch the white rock for good luck. There used to be so much folklore about this thing online that it would do something very special. Get the Sunstone from this man. We did it. The Professor Oak Challenge of Emerald is officially complete. We've obtained every Pokemon that can be obtained on just one copy of the game, without any glitches, without any trades. Let's look at the final Pokedex. Let's give it a good scroll through. Okay, let's also see the final time here. 147 hours and 58 minutes. Not the fastest time, pretty slow in the grand scheme of things, but I had fun.
And that's it, Professor Oak. We've taken on your challenge, and I've crushed it. It was a lot of fun. Some of the most fun I've ever had making a Pokemon video since I really like level grindy stuff in the first place. Probably could have finished it a lot sooner if I didn't wait to travel all the time before doing parts of this. This certainly won't be the last time I take on this kind of challenge. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Okay, this is definitely me when I'm in a video.